you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are you, my friend?
Very well, Jimmy. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I shouldn't say the Pittsburgh Penguins are bad. They're not in a bad place because they just added a great addition to their broadcast team, and we'll get to that. But in terms of the Sidney Crosby situation, Pierre, some interesting tidbits from agent Pat Brisson in the last 24 hours.
So, you know, Pat's really intelligent. I know you do. And Pat's really calculating, and I know you're aware of that. And Pat's background, basically, he was a teammate with Luc Robitaille with the Gatineau Olympic back when they were called the Hull Olympic.
Yep.
And then when Luc went out west, you know, Pat wasn't far behind. Pat started getting involved in rink situations and working around with Luc and starting a business and an agency. And he's done a magnificent job with that. He really has. He's been an amazingly polished person in a very difficult business. And so he has seen great players traded out of LA. You can start with Rob Blake. You can see Gretzky coming in. You can see, you know, Robitaille going out. There have been players that have come in. There have been players that have gone out. But he's seen that firsthand from early on in his career. Nothing's forever, unfortunately.
Right.
Pittsburgh Penguins have missed the playoffs the last 3 years. There's probably a better than average chance they're going to miss again this year.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more Sidney Crosby wants to go through that. He's got time on the clock too. We all do. And so you look at it, the Four Nations last year was huge for him. It stimulated him. It got him going. It saw best on best where he was. He's still got, as you, Jimmy, you told me this many times, he's still got game. Yeah, he does. He still has game. So he's going to play in the Olympics this year. Probably going to be the captain for Canada.
Have that same feeling again.
So he's going to be warmed up and feeling good. Do you think he's going to want to miss the playoffs this year? No. So
no. And I look for those quickly, and we'll get to our guest. We don't have him yet, right? No, we're good. All right, so we got a little time here. Jack Michaels, play-by-play man for the Edmonton Oilers on radio and at times TV as well, will be joining us. Obviously, to talk about another big contract situation in the NHL, the Connor McDavid situation in the Edmonton Oilers. But for those who did not see Mr. Brisson's comments, this is what he told The Athletic last night. Just regarding the situation of the team and Sidney Crosby, and could he change his mind about wanting to leave? And I thought that, you know, this reference to another very famous athlete, not in hockey, but in football, was important. Well, it's a reality. Brisson of CEA Sports told The Athletic on Monday night regarding the buzz generated by the Penguins' lack of success around his client. First of all, he's been so consistent for 20 years. He had another great year last season. He just keeps going. The comparison is Tom Brady. So Pierre, right when he says that, that's telling you that they're definitely considering something if it gets to that.
They are. And the only thing I'll say in Pat's defense on this, because some markets will love it, other markets won't like it as much. I think Brady's thing was about, there was a problem with Brady, and there's a problem with probably upper management and the coach.
Yep.
That was pretty apparent. Well, I don't think Sid had a problem with Mike Sullivan. And if he did, Mike Sullivan's gone. So it's the same, but it's different if you're following my logic on this. So as much as I revere Tom Brady and respect the heck out of him, I think Sid's at a different level. He is. Sid's at a different. When it comes to this kind of, do I think Sid will stay in Pittsburgh? I don't know. And I'm not going to lie. If I knew, I would tell you. I would tell you.
So Brisson goes on. He says, we want Sidney to hopefully be in the playoffs every year. As you pointed out, he's already missed them 3 straight. We want him to hopefully win another cup or 2. That's likely not happening in Pittsburgh. So each year the team that he's playing for fails to make the playoffs, it creates speculation. In reality, he's not getting younger. We're here to support him. It's the beginning of the season here. Let's see how things are going. Hopefully they have a great season and the speculation can go away. But at the same time, the reason we all talk about this, because he's such a great player still. He continues to be a difference maker, as I said, like Tom Brady, and that's how I look at it. Pierre, I totally agree with you on what you're saying about Brady. And I agree with you on what you said about Brisson to start it off. I think that's the key here.
There's one other thing I want to throw out there, and this is for everybody to listen to. When I was really deep in the interview process after Ray Shero got fired and they hired Jimmy Rutherford, it came down to Jimmy and I for the job.
Okay.
They offered me a 1-year deal. I said no. Jimmy said yes. So he got the job, and it turned out to be unbelievably good for Jimmy. And my life was great at NBC. I was really happy, and I was very protected. Here's what I would tell you. And right at the end, with a room full of legal people, ownership people, lots of very intelligent people, the number one thing in Pittsburgh at the time was we have Fleury, we have Crosby, we have Malkin, we have Letang.
Mm-hmm.
We have to win cups. We can't waste years. We need to win cups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, that's, even though ownership has changed, most of it, they've had a lot of different things. I'm telling you, they know if they don't win, there's a good chance something's going to happen there.
Yeah, and I think I want to go back to how you started this off, though, Pierre, because I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like Crosby has, and I believe you might disagree with me, but I believe he's going to continue to play I'm a loyal soldier. I want to do my best. We'll address the situation if it comes to that. I think they must have sat down before this whole media tour, right? And Pat said, let me take that part. Let me give the real answers here. Sid, you focus on playing, you focus on being Sid. And he took one for the team there, like an agent's supposed to do. But I think what it did, Pierre, is this is the first time we've seen the Crosby camp drop the gauntlet, so to speak, or kind of even intimate that there might be an end near. And I like how Brisson handled it here. I really do.
Pat's done it. That's what I said. Some markets are going to love it. Some are going to hate it. Pat's doing his job. That's his job for his client. I will never forget being on a bus with Team Canada at the World Junior. Sid was really young on the team, playing online with Corey Perry and Patrice Bergeron. And they were going to an exhibition. Canada was going to an exhibition game. And I was on the bus with them. And I remember how angry Pat Brisson was at one of the reporters because he had reported something that was not very friendly to Sid. And I can tell you, it wasn't accurate.
Sid was how old? About 17?
17.
Wow.
It wasn't. I was there. So I'm just telling you. And I was so impressed by the way Pat handled it. Mm-hmm. He didn't make it public. He called the reporter up and he said, this is unacceptable. And if you continue to do this, I will go public. Yeah. And we will make this a deal. And so you better backtrack or you better cease. And they did. And so he handles his stuff in a calculated manner.
Yep.
But again, I'm just going to say this. I know what the philosophy is in Pittsburgh, and I know what it's been for a long time. When they knew it was all working out with Letang and Malkin and Crosby and Fleury, when they knew they had, and that really was the four, like, you got your four. They knew they had that. They knew they had to win. There was pressure every year to win and get there. And every year lost was unbelievably traumatizing to the organization.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Pierre. I think, too, you look now, let's swing to the Connor McDavid, and we'll segue. Hopefully we'll get our good friend here, Jack Michaels, on in a second. It's been a little different. Would you not agree? Like, I think Connor, as opposed to Sid, hasn't held back as much in terms of painting the reality of the situation. And I wonder, is that just a different approach from him and his agent, or is that Connor taking it upon himself? Like, how does that whole dynamic work when the player decides that I'm going to be the one to kind of send a message there?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think the situation in Edmonton's a little different. Mm-hmm. They haven't got to the top of the mountain yet, and those guys all experienced the lowest of lows. See, Sid never got, but the lowest of lows was when the team was bad. They were part of bad Edmonton Oiler teams, like real bad, non-playoff Oiler teams. And so they had the taste of what that's like, and that's no fun. Sid never had that right from the start. Those guys were always relevant. They were always in the playoffs. They were always on national TV. They were always big deals. I'm telling you, Jimmy, like I was there. I used to fly in their planes. We used to do things for NBC just because they wanted to see the inside the Penguins. Like, what was Crosby? What was Malkin? What was Letang? Back in the day, what was going on with their coaches? What was the new Dan Bilesman was like? What was the relationship between Crosby and Michel Therrien? What was the relationship between Crosby and the new coach, Mike Sullivan? Like, you can go down the line, all these different things. So I knew what was going on there pretty good. They never really got sand kicked in their face until 3 years ago in Pittsburgh. They never really did. Now they're getting sand kicked in their face for the first time. So they're experiencing what McDavid and Draisaitl and poor Nugent Hopkins. Nugent Hopkins been taking it forever there.
Yeah, for sure.
People forget, like, the Nuge is 32 years old. It's not like he just started in the league.
I know. They did.
He's an amazing. By the way, we always say this guy's underrated, that guy's underrated. I think if you were to do it, like, from the time he was 18 years old to where he is now, it's hard to say Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has not been one of the most underrated players we've had in the last decade in the league.
Oh, I'd agree totally. And he's one of those guys too. Like, if they were ever to finally get over the hump, it would be so great for him to feel that. Yeah. But back to the Penguins, Pierre. We're still waiting on our guest here, so I want to talk about this. I'm very excited for you. You will be working with the Penguins broadcast team for 41 games this season. Tell our listeners and viewers what you're going to be doing.
I'm really excited. I can't believe it. I do Pittsburgh radio every Tuesday with the great Mark Madden, and it's been a joy to do it. We've been doing it for almost 4 years now, and things started heating up a little bit last spring, and I got a call from Mark Turley, who's the head of promotions for the Penguins, and he said, "Would you have interest in doing something like that?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Would it matter who you work with?" I said, "No, not at all." But Paul Steiger, because Mike Lang had passed away, obviously, and I said, "If Paul Steigerwald was there, I'd love to work with Paul." I've known Paul almost 40 years. When I was coaching, he was broadcasting with Mike. And they talked, and then Jen Bolano Ridgely, who's, right at the top, she's a chief communication officer. I spoke with her after Ray Shero passed away. And then, things just started to percolate. And then finally today, I got a beautiful letter from Mark, and I'm really grateful. I'm kind of really happy to be back with the group.
Well, I wish we could find that clip. I'll never forget it on Mitch Melnick's show many years ago. I'm always a Penguin. I remember you saying that.
Every time I go back, even when I was doing the games, you always, how do you not? You got to the highest of highs. You slept at the Stanley Cup there twice. You worked with, so many Hall of Fame people, not just players, but people. You developed amazing relationships with guys like Coffey and Tocchet and Lemieux and Recchi and Stevens and Murphy and Yager and Barrasso and, and Phil Bork and Jay Caulfield. It's just, Bob Airy. I don't want to admit Brian Trottier. It's like, it's pretty hard not to feel like you're part of something special when, you were running practices there, you were running game plans there, you were part of the group. It was Craig Patrick. It's pretty neat. So I was tickled today. I was really tickled. Yeah.
I'm sure you informed our great friend Scotty Bowman, who joined us yesterday.
I have not let Scotty know that.
You have not? Okay.
But I will. I'm sure he probably knows, and he didn't want to say it. He wanted to test me to see if I would tell. I will tell him after we're done now.
He's going to be so happy for you. And again, thanks to Scotty Bowman for joining us yesterday. We've got some amazing notes and appreciation for that interview we did with him regarding the great life and career of Ken Dryden. So anyhow, let's get over right now to our good friend Jack Michaels and talk some Edmonton Oilers and, of course, Connor McDavid, which is the hot topic. Oh, look at that. Every time we see Jack, he's outside in the beautiful weather. I think the last time he was in Dallas, I want to say, downtown. I remember that. Look at that on Martha's Vineyard. Am I correct?
Correct. First time. So
it's joy.
Different part of the country for me. I have never been here before in my life, and we're having a fabulous time.
So are you in Edgartown? Are you in Gayhead? Are you in Oak Bluff? Where are you?
I'm in Edgartown. Yeah, I'm in Edgartown. I'm having dinner in Oak Bluff tonight. So yeah, we're gonna cover the gamut, and I'm gonna top it off with a little Red Sox Yankees on Friday.
That's great. Hey, Jack, just a little inside trivia for you. When I was a player, I was training, believe it or not, on the other side, just Woods Hole. There was a rink in Falmouth, and I lived on Chappaquiddick. And I used to run, so you know where the ferry is, where you are in Edgartown. There's a ferry that goes across to Chappaquiddick.
Yeah. And I
And
actually stayed in Falmouth for the last 3 days at a place called the Beach Breeze Inn.
yeah, so I used to run the beaches at 5:00 in the morning on Chappie. Then I go do my job in Edgartown. Then I go to Oak Bluffs and take the ferry over to Falmouth. I'd skate, I'd come back, and then I'd take the other ferry over to Chappie, where I lived. And I do it all over again. I did that back in 1983.
Jimmy,
probably before you were born, Jack.
Jimmy, to me, this sounds like a pampered existence. Is he trying to hard sell us on this, that was his hard scrabble life?
It was awesome.
Yeah. I was bouncing back and forth between the Hamptons. It was tough work.
Yeah. Poor Pierre. What are we gonna do with him? Hey, listen. So, and is this just a quick getaway before things start ramping up?
You got it, bud. Camp, as you guys know, opens Thursday, so I'll squeeze in rounds of golf, but otherwise, this is kind of a last hurrah for summer. And as you guys know, 2 short summers for the Edmonton Oilers, and right back at it. So it's basically 90 days the last 2 years between the end of their season and the beginning of training camp, and a lot of questions. And I'm sure what's first and foremost on your mind is, what is that top 9 going to look like? And it's as Pierre knows, you guys know, I mean, look, it's one thing to do it in the American Hockey League. It's one thing to do it at the NCAA Division I level. It's another thing to do it over in the Swedish Elite League. It's another thing to see how those skills translate to the National Hockey League. And when you look at guys, in order, I guess you'd say, Matt Savoy, Ike Howard, and David Tomasek, these are guys that could be valuable contributors for the Edmonton Oilers. But there's a lot of coulds, and
there is.
I'm likely going to miss some time at the beginning of the season. The Oilers have to hit on 1 or 2 of those, in my opinion, to be at the level that they finished off in each of the last 2 seasons. And for, a club with, a certain degree of championship caliber, and again, we're talking about the 2-time defending Western Conference champions, there's some questions in your top 9. The good news for Edmonton, and I think you'll agree with me, gentlemen, is that I think the Western Conference has been squished in terms of the differences between the elite and the also-rans. But I'm not sure, in fact, I know you can't convince me right now, even with the addition of Mitch Marner, considering the 2 pieces they lost and are going to lose for the season. I don't think Vegas, Dallas, or Colorado got appreciably better either. So it's a real interesting year for the Western Conference. Theoretically, you could see, I would say, as many as 12 or 13 teams in the mix for a playoff spot, whereas last year you were basically looking at 9. And I think that's going to change this year.
Well, I think one of the teams that's going to help change it is Anaheim. I think people better look out for Anaheim. I wanted to ask you
last year.
What's that, Jack?
Took 3 of 4 from Edmonton last year.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the teams. But Jack, the guy I wanted to ask you about, because you've been so spot on with what you just said, I totally agree with when you talk about Tomasek, you talk about Savoy, and you talk about Isaac Howard. I know all 3 players really well. What's Podkolzin got him in offensively? I know how physical he is. What's he got in him offensively?
Well, that's going to dictate, I think, much of what that top 9 looks like, because, Leon Draisaitl loves playing with Podkolzin. He's an excellent puck retriever. He does some of the dirty work that as Draisaitl enters his early 30s, I think he's going to be less inclined, and understandably so, to do. When you've got a guy like Draisaitl who's used to have people hanging off him, you want as little as resistance as possible as the player gets older. But in order to earn a spot on that line this year and for years to come, I think Podkolzin is going to have to add a little bit more offense. He's never been much of a hands guy around the net, but he is working on the tip drills. He is, look, on a team with McDavid and Draisaitl, can you call him the hardest working player on the team? Probably not, but he is an extremely hard worker. If any of that can translate into, somewhat regular offense. And Pierre, I think what we're talking about here with Colson is we're never going to really be looking at anything more than a 15 to 18 and a 35 to 42 point guy. But if he can get to those levels, as you guys know, if you actually look at the NHL, that doesn't sound like, when we're talking here in September, it doesn't sound like second line statistics. But if you look around the league at each team's fifth and sixth leading scorers, they're always in the high 30s, low 40s. They're not 60, they're not 70.
Yeah.
And look at the 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning, and we know what happened to that club. So I think if Podkolzin can find a next level, Pierre, that's going to make everyone a lot more comfortable with regularly seeding him, top 6 and even top 7 or 8 minutes.
Jack, I want to ask you just if you look back when all the stuff about McDavid, we started talking about it and all the contract stuff comes up, and as it's progressed, what's been your take on how he's handled it? You know him a lot better than we do, probably just dealing with him so much. What have you sort of, I guess, from what he says, is there stuff there that maybe the people that aren't too familiar with him are seeing, or is there sort of secret messages there, so to speak, or is he just kind of towing the line?
He's not a secret message guy. I think he's measured. The one thing about this Edmonton Oilers club, and again, it's so flashy that it's the one team in the league where the other 31 have to be cognizant of the fact that they can get embarrassed. Like Edmonton is the one team in the league that can embarrass you every night. But that doesn't necessarily mean anymore that they're a young, particularly fast run and gun club. These guys are all either married or married with kids. They've reached that second stage of life. And what I think you're seeing Connor McDavid is a measured approach, an approach that the three of us might take if we were presented with a potential career-changing opportunity. And there's more to factor in. Connor's not just thinking for himself anymore. He's thinking about his wife, Lauren, who has some interests in downtown Edmonton, including a restaurant, who has a business in Edmonton that's obviously going to change if she were to leave the market. Not as well connected. Of course, you're always going to be somewhat connected with Connor McDavid, but she has a comfort zone as well. You've got the obviously everlasting friendship of Leon Draisaitl. Sure, that friendship doesn't go away if you join a different team, but it does change the dynamic for sure. How does he want to spend the next 3 years? And then if it's the next 3 or 4 years that he decides on spending, he then puts off the decision he's making now in another 3 or 4 years. And also from a business standpoint, I think if you're Connor McDavid, it might make more sense to do a shorter term deal simply with what is projected to be a salary cap that could really soar in the next 3 or 4 years. It's already going up significantly in the next 3 or 4 years. But why wouldn't you, if you're Connor McDavid, be apt to say, look, if I'm 31 or 32, when I'm signing my next deal, I'm still right in my prime. Whereas if I'm 34 or 35, I'm not necessarily going to get a 6 or 7 year deal at that point for huge money. I may, but I may not. So I think he's taken a look at all angles. I think he's taken a calculated, mature approach. I think what he said the other day, tells me that he's reached that stage. And he said, you know what, guys, I understand we're in a hockey mad market, but if our guys can't concentrate on their job just because you're doing your job, then what kind of team do we have anyway? And I think that's a salient point. And I think it's a point that sometimes those from the outside, when you talk about how demanding a Canadian market is, I've always said from an American standpoint, okay, big deal. You're a big player for the Edmonton Oilers. What do you think it's like to be Aaron Judge? What do you think it's like to be when he was the quarterback for the New York Jets, or even moving into the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, there's all levels. These NFL guys have tremendous pressure on them, and I refuse to believe Connor McDavid has any more pressure on him than the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just, we sometimes get bubble wrapped in hockey and we forget there's other sports and there's other markets where you are in a fishbowl. It's not just Edmonton. And I thought Connor McDavid making that point the other day is just another reflection of the maturity that is part of this team. And it's why that, you're going to ask me about the regular season, and I'm going to tell you, I think they're going to look at it much the same way they did last year. What does it really mean if the only series we lose is the one where we have home ice advantage?
Yeah.
Jack, first of all, I don't think the McDavid negotiation's that hard a negotiation. I don't. I just think you got to get in the room and decide. You want to go term, you want to go dollar value, what do you want to do? I don't think it's that hard. I've been through some of them like that. They're not that difficult. I think it'll get.
You're talking about a Michael Jordan type guy.
Yeah.
What is negotiation really? The negotiation amounts to, Connor, what can we do for you?
Correct.
Negotiation. I'm sorry. He's at a level very similar to a Jordan, a Barkley, a Dan Marino, bring it to the younger guys, a LeBron James. It's going to be on his terms. And that's just 100%. The way.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hard negotiation. But this is the thing that I think has got to be settled in Edmonton. I don't think it's Connor McDavid. I think that's getting settled. They got to decide what they're doing with the goalie. Jack, I'm telling you, and I know you don't want to hear it from me, but that is a sticking point going into the season, Jack. They got to decide what they're going to do.
Well, Edmonton again, and we talked about the unique position the Oilers are in terms of their top nine. I also think it's fairly unique to go into a season as a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. I think Edmonton's one of 7 or 8 teams that can honestly say,
I agree.
The Cup is our one goal this year.
Yeah.
But it's rare that you have a scenario where Stuart Skinner or your starting goaltender, to keep it on generic terms, your starting goaltender could be your starting goaltender for the next 5 years, or he might not be your starting goaltender for game 1 of the playoffs. That is a unique circumstance. And to your point, Pierre, that's what's going to be at stake here in the first 4 or 5 months of this year, because I don't think Edmonton is going to be inclined to limp through another regular season winning in spite of their starting goaltending rather than at least to some degree because of it. And the one thing that gives me pause on that, of course, is in the postseason, Edmonton's coming off a postseason where in successive rounds, their goaltending outplayed a Vezina finalist in Darcy Kemper. I believe he finished second. Pierre, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're on it.
And then in the second round, their goaltending outplayed a Stanley Cup champion in Aiden Hill. And in the third round, they outplayed for the second consecutive year, and this was Skinner versus Ottinger only.
100%.
Yeah, this is the second consecutive year. You could make an argument that a guy that at times rivals Connor Hellebuck as your starter for the United States in Olympic competition. I know Hellebuck has pushed his nose back in front from the last couple years, but I'm sorry, Jake Ottinger is right there. He is right there if you look at the numbers. So
we agree.
That's the maddening thing about Edmonton's goaltending situation is, on the one hand, the regular season play has to improve. Otherwise, I do think there'll be a change. And when I say, if you're limping along and you've got a guy sitting at 890 who's supposed to be your starter, then I could see a change there. But in every other circumstance, Pierre, I think Edmonton is inclined to understand that just like its team, the regular season hasn't mattered a great deal. And in the postseason, he's been there for them. There's a lot of currency that has been built up for the Edmonton Oilers with what they've done in the last 2 postseasons. And it's not just limited to McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard. And trust me, the core of that team feels the same way. They're going to give him every chance to solidify that number 1 role because they feel very confident in their number 2 that in spot duty, he can get you a few wins when you need it. he certainly proved that in the playoffs last year when he outplayed Kemper head-to-head in the final 4 games of that LA series.
Jack, one more for you from me here. You look at the cap space that they have this year and looking down the pike to next year. How much of an effect do you think that's playing on Connor's decision right now, where he looks at it and says, does this team have enough flexibility, even with the cap going up? I understand it's going up, but does this team have enough flexibility to continually be a cup contender and where we are right now?
I don't know whether Connor is as preoccupied with cap flexibility as he is at the depth around him. However that comes. I think rare cases, Jimmy, that I think in rare cases, and I'm not trying to demean the players, but I don't think they're thinking, what's our money situation a couple years from now? What he's going to be looking at is what is around him in camp, even with maybe some of the guys that aren't necessarily going to be full-time regulars at the beginning of the year. Because, and I think, David, I think that's the reason there was some problems early in the season last year, is saw guys like Ryan McLeod and Dylan Holloway, guys that could have kept their legs a bit fresher, head out the door, and they didn't necessarily embrace the return that came back the other way. Having said that, that's where Matt Savoy is a key piece, because in the games he did play, I thought there was a little spark between him and Leon Draisaitl. And again, talent recognizes talent, and I think Leon thinks that Matt Savoy can play.
He can play. I agree. Jack, this is so kind of you to take time off from your vacation out in Martha's Vineyard. Look forward to seeing you this winter.
Yeah, for sure, Jack.
At heart, I'm just like you. I'm a hockey junkie. I love talking hockey again. It gets me into the vibe. I've got to, at some point, put some coherent sentences back to back to back.
So Jack, I'm gonna tell you, I worked at a hotel there called the Harbor Town Inn, and Roberta Flack was staying there. And I had to carry with another gentleman her piano up to her room. I'm not kidding you.
What?
And we thought we were going to hit the mother lode for a tip. We got nothing.
Hey, Jack, listen, I want to tell you, too, before we let you go, when you go to the game on Friday at Fenway, go over to Fenway Johnny's and ask for Johnny Caron and tell him we sent you. You'll be treated like a rock star.
Yes. You got to do that. Go to Fenway Johnny's and
I'll
see
text
Johnny
it to you.
Caron.
Okay, is it inside the park or outside the park?
It's right outside. It's right across the street from the park. Right on Lansdowne. Yep.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
All right, my friend. Enjoy. Have a good one. Jack Michaels joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
You didn't know that story. I got stiffed by Roberta Flack.
Jeez, man, talk about cheap.
She was on the 3rd floor of the hotel, and the other bellhop and I were carrying her piano up the stairs, and we thought, boy, we won't have to work the rest of the week.
Wow.
We got stiffed.
Your boss say anything or no?
No, we were grateful to have jobs. Didn't say a freaking word.
I hate when that happens.
Ended up going over to Falmouth, skating that night, and then coming back and training the next morning. It was all good.
Good stuff.
You know what? I had such a good time that summer because it was different. I had never done anything like that. You know, I was always up in Quebec. And a bunch of my buddies said, you should go there and work out and train and skate. They're good guys. And it wasn't nearly as orchestrated as it is now, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So it was good. It was really good. I enjoyed it. It was a fun summer.
I think they might even have a rink on the Vineyard now, Pierre, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I know that Martha's Vineyard High School and Nantucket are both pretty good in hockey, but I don't think I know Nantucket's is enclosed. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the one in the Vineyard's enclosed. It has a roof. I don't know if it has walls, but I know the one in Nantucket does. Yeah. Because the Riley family has their hockey camp there.
Right. So I remember like our good friends at Live Barn there, Fowler Mill and them were trying to, at one point, trying to get in there into those rinks. So that's why I know they must have something there. But
they have something.
Good stuff there. Well, we'll see. The one thing I took from that interview there, Pierre, and it's something I'm now going to watch early on in the season, is Savoy and how much they really are looking into him. I just hope it's not too much pressure on the kid. That's the one thing I want to say.
One of my favorite guys that was a really good NHL player and played in Europe, won World Junior Goal for Canada, Tyler Ennis. I
Great. I love
worked
him.
with
Yes.
Ty in Ottawa. I really enjoyed working with Ty in Ottawa. He's a great, great kid. And I remember once we were just sitting around having a cup of coffee early in the morning. Ty always got to the rink real early, and I was sitting there after working out. We were talking, and I said, "What's this Savoy kid like?" He says, "Actually, I skated with him this summer. He's going to be a good player. He's going to." And if another player is telling you that, especially a guy like Tyler Ennis, I trust him. And I've watched him a lot, and I think Ty was onto something. I think Edmonton's onto something there. I do. He's fast. He can play with smart players. He can play with high-end players. Not going to be intimidated because his skill level is pretty high. I think they might be onto something there. I don't know if he's good as Holloway. Like Dylan Holloway's a really good player, Jim.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's as good.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a good player.
We'll see what my old friend Trent Frederick does for them if he can stay healthy.
You got to stay healthy, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's the key for him.
If
he's healthy, he's going to find his way. And I didn't like when the Bruins let him go, but I get it. It just didn't work. The health was an issue. It happens.
That's one of those negotiation deals where I think they said, you know what, we're not comfortable doing this, and
we're not going that far.
And the agent said, you know what, we're not comfortable dealing with you, so let's just get it done. Let's move on. That's what I think happened there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we get to our wonderful friends at Betway, and by the way, I'm seeing some more NHL futures coming out, so we'll get to that in a second. But of course, we want to talk about our friends with the Friendship 4 and Cara Group Travel. Very excited about that. We will have another. We're going to have another Friendship 4 coach on Friday. Union men's head hockey coach Pierre. In Union, I want to say too, people forget Union had a heck of a team years back. I mean, this is a team.
Eric Bennett built that team. They won the national championship. Shane Gossespear was the MVP.
Yeah.
Union College, historically, going all the way back when they had a guy named Steve Baker playing in goal, who ended up being the goalie for the New York Rangers. Ned Harkness built a juggernaut there. He did. And then obviously there was, unfortunately, NCAA violations that were broken. So they took a little step back for a while. But, you know, I've been to Achilles Arena. It's not, they've got a new rink now, which is spectacular, which is opening this year. But to me, Union was one of those, a lot like St. Lawrence, a lot like Clarkson. They could, a lot like RPI, high-end academic integrity, and they could have Division I hockey, even though it's a Division III school and all their other sports.
So Josh Haig will be joining us here on the eye test on Campus Friday. Of course, it's the On Campus Fridays, remember, pre-recorded, and then it will air at 4 p.m. Another Friendship 4 head coach, and we'll be getting more Friendship 4 guests, related guests as we go on here into the fall. Some of the rankings are coming out, by the way, for college hockey, Pierre, I saw today. So it's getting to be that time of year.
Let me guess. Penn State's got to be right at the top.
I don't think I saw one ranking without them at the top here. And
I'll guess Michigan State's going to be right up near the top. And I'm going to bet Minnesota's right up near the top.
Yes.
I'm going to bet Dakota probably has this miraculous comeback there near the top. And I'm going to bet BU and BC are probably right near the top too.
Yeah. And the one thing I just caution, especially as we transition to our promo for Betway here, if you do decide to bet some college hockey, whether it's futures or as we get into the season, the games, just don't get too caught up in the hype until you start to get a feel for these teams. Maybe pull back a bit because, and I'm not knocking these teams, I think they're all going to be good, right? But because of the transfers they got from the CHL, I think Pierre would agree with me. We've said it before. There's a lot of overhyping going on right now. And I feel bad for the kids, Pierre, too, because like, you know, if they don't live up to that hype, then it's on them, right? It's not on the media or the odds makers. It comes down on the kids and the coach. And just take a step back, get a feel for the games as you get into it. And as we always like to say at Betway, bet responsibly. Pierre, you want to say one more thing before I
watched the power play play at BU with Lane Hudson on it and Macklin Celebrini on it and Luke Tuck on it and Ryan Green on it, and there was no national championship.
Right.
There was no national championship. I watched Jacob Fowler, Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, No national. In fact, they didn't even get to the Final Four of their conference. They lost to Northeastern. So, there are a lot of really good college hockey teams. I'm just telling people.
There's a lot of teams coming up the ranks, Pierre.
And there are, but nobody's talking about Providence. They're sleeping on Providence.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Lehman's a hell of a coach.
We'll get Nate on.
He's a hell. He's been on our show and he'll come on again. But he's a hell of a coach. I'm just telling you.
I'll get him here to my new place, Pierre, right up by the pool bar here. We'll do an interview on Campus Friday. He's literally 4 blocks away. His PC.
And I know he lost a whack of players to the pros. Talking about Greg Carville. I'm talking about now.
Oh,
he lost a lot of guys.
Yep.
Their team's going to be good.
Yep.
They kept their goalie.
Yes.
Rabel's back.
Huge.
And I'm just telling you, you'll see.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of teams that aren't getting nearly enough cred.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes to college hockey, just ease your way in when it comes to betting there. But let's talk about where you can go do that betting, and that's Betway. If you don't have an account, go over there right now and bet the beauties with Betway and join the action. You can go to that QR code right in front of you if you're watching. Otherwise, go to the details section and create your new membership on the website. And of course, on your first bet, even if you lose, you get up to $200 credit. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus and always bet responsibly. And as we get closer to the season, we will start doing, as I said, our division previews. I'll chip in with some futures. I've already been kind of studying some things, some interesting trends on players that I think maybe the odds makers haven't caught up to yet. So hopefully I can help you in that way and win you some money over at Betway. All right, let's go to our Q&A. What do we got? CMO hockey training. Pierre loves CMO's questions. Pierre, I've been watching the 2003 playoffs on YouTube. Oh, yeah. It's one of the best underrated coaching jobs in the playoff that run was Jacques Lemaire and the Wild that he had there. I remember that, Pierre. They knocked off the Avs that year. Details to that team were so impressive.
Yeah, they were. I used to watch practice. Mike Ramsey, coach of defense, and Mario Tremblay was working with Jacques Lemaire up front. It's a hell of a coaching staff. And what I remember the most, one of the turning points of that series, there was a broken stick at the offensive blue line for Anaheim on a power play, and Cliff Ronning went down and scored for Minnie. Or maybe it was the other way around, but the broken stick was a big deal. And this is what I remember. I was like, these sticks stink. The next day, I got a call from Matt O'Toole, who at that time was the head of Reebok Hockey, and he lived in the same town I lived in Montreal. He said, "Can we talk?" And I said, "Sure." And I knew I was going to the principal's office.
Oh, boy.
So anyways, we met. We became tremendous friends. And Matt did a really good job when he was at Reebok. But I agree. Jacques Lemaire did an amazing job with that team.
Yeah.
They were really – and the atmosphere in Minnesota at that time was phenomenal. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. That was great.
You know, Anaheim ended up going to the final, and they played a 7-game series with New Jersey. Pat Burns coached the Devils, but that was Jacques Lemaire did a hell of a job with Minnesota that year for sure.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, who wins the Vezina this year? You know what, Randy? As I said, I'll get into all that in a few weeks.
I know who Randy's going to say.
I know who Randy's going to say. He's a much richer man today.
Dustin Wolf is going to win.
Wolf.
No,
what do you think of that contract, Pierre, by the way? I thought it was fair for both sides.
I just think, well, I don't know if it's fair for both sides. I just think that Calgary said, you know what, this is one of our go-to guys, and we're not going to let it go any further than this. Maybe we can get it at a bargain price. So I respect what they did. They know the player far better than any of us and his value to the team. They do. So I would say it's probably a good deal for the player. It's a good deal for the team, I guess. But he's not a very big guy, Jimmy. My only concern with all these, and you've heard me say this about Brendan Gallagher, all smaller guys when they get big, long deals. It's not because I don't think they're good players. I do. I don't know how long they last.
Yeah.
You know, once they lose a half a gear, they get a little bit nicked up. They're nowhere near as good. That's my only concern. Wolf's not a really big guy, Jimmy. He's not.
They're going to have to maybe find a good 1B there to support him there. He played 53 games last year, Pierre. So I'm with you on that. The wear and tear could play a role later on. All right, next question. Derek Rendell, Pierre, I had the pleasure of meeting now head coach of the Cape Breton Eagles, Jason Clark, who spent the last 3 seasons in San Diego. What can Eagles fans expect from Coach Clark?
He's bringing a pro attitude to the party, which I think is really good. And San Diego is a pure development team for Anaheim. You know, I watched some of their games actually because there were kids that I knew, Ian Moore being one of them, Sammy Colangelo being another one of them, kids that were playing on that team either later in the year or earlier in the year, depending on where you were. And I know Pat Verbeek wanted a big development thing there. So you're getting a coach that understands development and creating standards, which I think is really good.
All right. Next question. Juice, Pierre, what are some of the best almost trades in NHL history?
Well, I don't want to give names, but I'm just going to tell you, I could have been involved with one of them. We drafted a player in the draft, and we got offered like unbelievable amounts to trade this player. Unbelievable. And I looked at the other guys. I said, we can't do this. There's no way we can't do this. And we didn't. But I think about it now, what it might have meant for both teams. I think one team definitely would have gone in the right direction. I think the team that we would have been trading this player to, they would have won the cup for sure. But I think the team that we were a part of at the time, we would have been pretty good too, because we were getting some pretty good players back.
Check your text there, Pierre. I'm not sure if I can mention this almost trade. I think
you can 100% because I was part of that one for sure.
Go ahead then. Yeah.
Okay, so that started on a car ride from Belleville, Ontario, back to Ottawa. Randy Sexton was driving. Ray Shearer was in the passenger seat, and Brad and I were in the back seat of the car. And so we knew that Detroit was trying to motivate Steve Yzerman. And there was a chance that Steve Yzerman was going to end up in Ottawa because he was from Nepean, which is a suburb of Ottawa. And Alexei Yashin would have been going the other way. And guys in Detroit were putting that in the paper because they wanted Yzerman to read it. And the answer is, I can tell you how that started. The genesis for that started in a car ride after a preseason game. I think it was between Ottawa and Florida, if I remember correctly, in Belleville. And those discussions happened.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was sitting right in the room. That absolutely happened. I'm not afraid to talk about that one.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And I think that was part of how Stevie decided he's going to have to play a 200-foot game.
Well,
and obviously, Scotty Bowman took a big role in that. But
Scotty deserves a lot of credit on that, and so does Steve. Scotty's the one that had to deliver the message, and Steve had to receive the message. And if he chooses not to receive it, then it's no good.
Yeah.
But he did. He was man enough to choose to receive it, and I think it changed his career path, trajectory, and it created this unbelievable winning atmosphere in Detroit.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Good stuff. All right, next question. Derek Rendell, in 1993, when the Isles upset the Pens, man, that was amazing. Do you think the Habs, with how good Waugh was and their continuous overtime heroics, could have overcome Mario, seeing how he would have elevated his game back home? That's a great question. Never thought about that.
That's a great question. So I want to be fair on that. I was coaching in Hartford that year. I had left Pittsburgh after the Cup. Brian Burke had been the general manager in Hartford, and he and Paul Holmgren approached me about going to work there, and I went with them. I was actually scouting an American League game, watching Chris Osgood, who was playing for Adirondack against Springfield, who were actually at that time called the Springfield Indians, not the Falcons. And so I was there watching, and then I snuck out of the rink because I knew Pittsburgh and Islanders were playing, and I was watching. I watched David Volek score against Barrasso, and it was over. And I was there were no real cell phones then.
No.
But my drive from Adirondack to Hartford, where I live, was probably around 2.5 hours, maybe 3. And I got back, and my message machine was beeping. And it was Scotty. He wasn't happy, obviously. And he said, I think I'm going to leave Pittsburgh. And I was like, where are you going? He said, I don't know yet, but I think I'm going to leave. And then, like 2 days later, he told me, and I was like, wow.
Pierre, I don't remember. I don't remember reading all the quotes then and what happened with the players after that series. But Was there a lot of overconfidence going on with that Pittsburgh team?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I
Yeah.
wasn't there. But what I would say is they'd won back-to-back. You know,
It's a tough thing to do.
I don't think people realize how hard it is to keep everybody, and everybody thinks they were more important in the scheme of it all. And so if you allow that to fester in your room, that can create some animosity. And then you saw guys started to get traded out of Pittsburgh. You know, our friend Kevin Stevens got traded out of Pittsburgh. Yep. Rick Tocchet got traded out of Pittsburgh. You know, Ronnie Francis eventually got traded out of Pittsburgh. Like it just, so it's kind of Bobby Airy got traded out of Pittsburgh. Larry Murphy. I mean, so it's hard.
It shows you too. I mean, and there was no cap then, and even then, it was so hard.
It was hard to watch. I mean, my heart was with those guys.
Yeah.
It didn't mean I didn't like the Islanders, but I'd been part of that team a year ago and the year before that. So,
all right, next question. Chris L, question for Pierre and Jimmy. The Leafs were a victim of a flat cap. Do you think some rebuilding teams or teams with high roster turnover will be the victim of a rising cap where the Habs may be okay?
Well, the Habs are okay now, but here's what I would say. Chris, I'm going to tell you the truth. And I know probably at the league office, they don't like me saying this, but I'm not going to lie to the people. I'm not sure every team's spent. You can go look, go to Puckpedia and look. Not everybody's spending the cap. Like Edmonton Oilers are $226,000 away from the cap. Mm-hmm. That's one team that's doing it. There are a couple others, but you go look at the bottom of the cap. There are a lot of teams that are not spending to the cap, and they're done with their roster movement for this year.
Yep.
So, you know, as much as everybody's, the cap, and I respect Jack Michaels a ton. I think Jack's really good at his job. I really do. And you know that. I've told you that a million times. But the cap can go up. Doesn't mean everybody's spending to it, because I don't think they are. Exactly. I really don't. I don't think they are.
The teams are going to have internal cap, like Tommy Fitzgerald told me last week, Pierre. It's going to happen. And the other thing too, and we're not trying to be, you know, doom and gloom here, but there's a lot going on in the world right now that might prevent that cap from going up as much as
I just know this. I mean, I know it got poo-pooed by the league, but all of a sudden they had to backtrack. I said, look out for the Canadian dollar. You're going to have problems with 7 teams. Yeah. So, and I'm telling you right now, like a lot of those teams, they've had serious hockey operation budget cuts.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get it. I'm not trying to look. I love this league. Everything that I have in my life is because of this league, and I'm really grateful. Exactly. But I also am not going to lie to people.
Right. And I think, Pierre, one of the things too that people should know is because you love it so much, you're always going to recognize the truth, whether that's hard to take or whether it's great, because you got to learn from it and adjust. So, all right, next question. Big guy, could you see a Lindros trade happening in today's NHL with the salary cap constraints?
I could. Yeah, I could. Absolutely. I could see that. Yeah. You mean you're talking about when he got drafted? Yeah, out of Oshawa, and then he got traded, and you know they had to have the hearing between Philadelphia, Quebec, and Rangers. The good old days.
Yeah, I'd say, even though it didn't happen in Quebec City, the Nordiques/Avalanche benefited heavily from that trade in the long run. So,
or did they ever? Or did they ever?
Next question.
Did they ever?
Seamoke, Pierre is a Hawks fan. I'd like to see them hire a president of hockey ops to help with Davidson. Is there a reason why teams shy away from that position? I think Eddie O would be a great fit here in that role.
Yeah,
I think more teams are going towards it, actually, Seamoke. And I agree with you. I think maybe they should look at that, but teams are starting to do that.
Yeah, no. Well, look at right where Eddie O works right now in Seattle. Ronnie France is the president of hockey operations, and Jason Bottrell is, you know, the GM. And then you look at LA, Kenny Holland's the GM, and Luc Robitaille is president of hockey operations. Yeah. So I think more and more, actually, you're seeing it.
Look at the dynamic duo in Montreal. Right
now. They've done a magnificent job. Boy, oh boy, I got to tell you, Hughes has done a great job, and Gordon's done a great job. They deserve a lot of credit, those guys. They really do. They really, really, truly do.
They're not done. So, all right, next question. Randy Workman. Hey, guys, is there a prospect that you're keeping your eye on this season?
There are a few. You're talking about going into the NHL? Like, there's one guy in Calgary, I'm telling you right now, I think Adar Suniev, UMass kid, if he gets a chance to play, as much as I was raving about Matt Coronado, this guy has more speed than Coronado, and he can score. I'm telling you, like if he gets on the right line, that kid could do. I don't know if he's definitely not starting in the NHL unless there's a rash of injuries. But there's a bunch of young guys. Like I'm going to watch Justin Ritzkovian down in Dallas if he makes a team. He had an amazing year in the American Hockey League, like an unbelievable season in the American Hockey League. I don't know what happens with Zev Buium in Minnesota. Does he make their team or does he not? I mean, last year he finished the season there. But if he's playing in the NHL, like, I think that kid's going to be phenomenal. Like really, really good. I watched him a lot at Denver. You and I watched him 2 years ago at Denver.
Yeah.
So no, I think there's a lot of guys. I can go around the league and basically be able to pick off a bunch of them.
I'll just say one that I'm excited to watch, and I know a majority of our viewers are too, is Demidov.
Yeah, how could you not be? But he's already had a taste. Like how you know the player. Like Zane Parake, okay, in Calgary. I think Randy. Like if he makes it, he could put up some big numbers if they have him on the power play. I don't know what's going to happen with Rasmus Anderson. I have no idea. But Parade could put up points. Like he can get points.
Yep. Why am I drawing a blank here, Pierre? Who's the kid that was at UMaine that's in the Carolina system now? The smaller but really good.
Bradley Nadeau.
Yes. You think he can make the team?
I do. I think Bradley can put up points, big points. I do.
All right. There's a lot out there. Fabian Lysell. I think this is his last chance with the Bruins. I really do.
Well, that's your wheelhouse. I just wish he was big. I wish he was bigger. That's all I'll say. I just wish he was bigger.
All right. Next question. Marco Larabia. Hey, Marco, how you been? Do you guys think parity will be even more intense this year than last year? We'll see a larger gap. Marco, I think we're going to start to see more of a gap as the years go on here. I think that's going to be the negative effect of a rising cap, is it's going to diminish the parity. I don't know if Pierre agrees.
No, I think down the road I do. I'm not sure that'll have an effect this year.
Right.
Because Anaheim's going to cause problems. Seattle's going to be a lot better. Columbus is going to cause problems.
Columbus for sure, yeah.
Columbus is going to cause problems, I'm telling you right now. So St. Louis had a terrible start last year. They got their coach fired. They're going to be a good team this year. Like I think the parity this year will be very strong. I think Jimmy's point has got a lot of positive energy to it. I do think we'll see it start to spread out a little bit.
All right. Next question. Juice again. We all assume that Atlanta will be the next NHL franchise.
No,
if so,
don't call them the Thrashers.
No. Should they be called the Thrashers again? No. I wonder what they're
move on from that. Let's I live around a lot of Atlanta people that have been very successful in life, and they want hockey back. They're bad, and they keep telling me, and I don't know the city well enough. I just don't, because I used to fly in. I used to go to the rink. I used to go. We stayed at the same hotel all the time, the Westin, Peachtree Westin Hotel. Stayed there for years, and then go right back, do the game, and head out of town. Go to the Atlanta airport and get out of town. So I don't know much about the city, but here's what I do know. They keep telling me all the time, the building's got to be on the north side of the city. Well, everybody I've spoken to here that I trust that kind of knows the inner work, they said they're getting a team and the building's going on the north side of the city. So I trust them. They said if it goes there, it works. I don't. All I'm telling you is what I've been told.
And obviously, as we've said here before, and as well known, keep an eye on Houston as well as that other team. I think that's a great market for them to be in. A lot of people are going to, why can't they put a team up north or that? Houston's going to be a good market. All right, next question.
Agreed.
Brandon Parker. Hey, guys, question for Pierre. Do you see any chance that Reinbacher can press for his spot on the bottom pairing if he has a solid camp, or is Laval the best spot for him this year?
No, I think he's got a legitimate chance to make the team. It's a right shot, and he can defend. So I think he's got a legitimate chance to make the team, Brandon. I really do. And if he doesn't, that won't hurt him to go back to Laval. But I think he's got a legitimate chance to make the team.
Speaking of Laval, Pierre, the Laval Rocket, a big
congratulations
announcement to our
Nello, to Sandy, to everybody at the Sick Podcast Group. Really, what a feather in their
cap. It's been confirmed that the Sick Podcast Network will now serve as the French play-by-play home for the Laval Rocket this upcoming season. Congratulations to all our colleagues and friends at the Sick Podcast Network and the Laval Rocket. Very excited for them. They're going to do a great job, and we're proud to be part of this network. Great stuff, guys.
I'm so happy for Arnello and for Rosa
Sammy.
and for Sammy. Just the people that are the brains behind the Sick Podcast Network. I'm telling you, this is our third year starting here, Jimmy. Third year.
Yeah.
And it's just grown unbelievably. And it's great. It's really, really good.
We're thrilled. All right, next question. Juice again. Pierre, do you know anything about Gannon Larocque, the player the Canadians got back in the Price contract trade?
Yeah, the poor kid. He's been hurt so much. He's had bad hips. I have a hard time believing he's going to play a game in the NHL. I have a hard time believing that.
All right, what do we got? Next question. Randy Workman, do you think the NHL should have stiffer penalties for hits to the head? Do you think it would help?
I think they've started. It doesn't mean that it's perfect, because it's not, but they've started. It's getting better. Nobody would be more pleased about that than the late Ken Dryden, who really fought for that. I had numerous talks with Ken about this over time. So I do think, they're trying their best, and it's a fast game played on a small surface, and it's slippery and stuff happens. But I do think, they're trying. There's no question. Trying to make it better.
And I don't know if you can find it. Maybe I'll ask Mitch and then I'll tweet it out, or whatever you call it now. But that he was playing clips of that interview you and Ken did together with him way back on Concussion. It was so fascinating. So if you can find that, you might be able to find it on YouTube or something. I'll look for it, and I'll let you guys know if I get it. It was really
Ken really cared about it. I remember going to a game in Toronto and him inviting me into one of the boxes because he had heard me do a couple games with Gordon Miller, and he says, "I really like your stance on the headshots and all that stuff." I said, "Well, from where I was as a player, and then coaching, and then scouting, and then coaching again, and then moving on to TV, I can't believe how much it's changed, and just the speed and the size of the player. Somebody's going to get killed."
Yeah.
I really felt that.
So many, Pierre, that were affected by it.
It's just sad. It's really sad.
All right, that's it for today. We appreciate it. Big thanks to Jack Michaels for joining us. He just texted me back. He is headed to Fenway Johnny's Friday, so I will give Johnny Curran the heads up for the Sox-Yankees pregame there. He'll treat him well, and I can't wait to get back in West End Johnny's this season, Pierre. We're looking forward to that. Thanks to Shane up in Montreal working the boards. And again, congratulations to our network here, the Sick Podcast Network, on their new affiliation with the Laval Rocket. Thanks to you, the viewers, for all your questions and for listening. Pierre, we will be back tomorrow. I'm working on a guest, hopefully have confirmed by the morning, and I will let you know and then let everybody else know afterwards. But until then, this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.